The other thing is in the press conference where they introduced Todd Monken, both Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam mentioned having the youngest or one of the youngest rosters in the NFL.
Yeah.
Um, does that kind of sound to you like they're not going to make a big splash necessarily in free agency? That's when I heard that I'm like, they're not going to spend a whole lot.
Yeah, a little bit, Dave. But, secondly to that, I think it points to maybe lowering expectations going into next year. I know Jimmy Haslam is, always been very leery of putting any kind of a win number out there, and he probably shouldn't. But I think he also maybe wasn't truthful necessarily with the fan base over the last 2 years when they realized that they were going to be outgunned and outmanned, and that this roster, with all its holes, to your point, with its inexperience, wasn't going to be able to produce a winning record. And so I think by them, establishing right away that, they are young, that it's part of this rebuilding process, that they're not going to necessarily run out and sign, any experienced 30 to 35-year-old guys to help them get over the hump. Because quite frankly, Dave, they're not there. They're not close to the hump yet. I think I mentioned this the last time I was on with you. What really struck me during the playoffs and watching all these teams, right up through last night in the Super Bowl, was how far the Browns are away on the offensive side of the ball. They've got essentially no offensive line right now, right? They've got arguably the worst wide receiving group in the league. They've got big questions at tight end. Obviously last year with, Fannin and Judkins, and they've got an infusion of some young talent there, but across the board, they've got major holes everywhere. Never mind the quarterback position. So I think that's part of what you heard from Barry and Haslam in that news conference, Dave, was to kind of just lower expectations a little bit, make people realize exactly where this team is and how far it has to go.